right, great to be here. It is First and Now, the official BC Lions podcast. I'm your host, Matt Baker, and this is a special day. We're relaunching this. We have a new co-host to tell you about in just a second. At first, as always, as is the custom, we will thank our sponsor, the good folks at IA Financial Group. IA Financial Group has over 125 years of experience helping Canadians. Proudly Canadian, IA Financial Group has over 7,000 employees and more than 4 million clients, serving Canadians with a foundation of trust from coast to coast. IA Financial, invested in you. Contact your financial advisor for more information. And without further ado, we're going to welcome a new member of our squad, a new member of our digital squad anyway. If you follow our website, social media channels, you've already seen plenty of his great handiwork. We've recruited him from Winnipeg. That's right, nobody's perfect. A big welcome to Nik Kowalski, BC Lions videographer and First and Now co-host. He's going to wear that hat as well. Nik, welcome aboard.
Thanks a lot, Baker. It's been a privilege so far. I think I'm on week 8 right now.
Is it that?
Yeah.
Is it that? Time's just flying by.
I moved to BC on January 13th. So it's been...
Wow.
Yeah, I think week 8.
And we're recording this on a Friday. I think it's March 11th. Like another 8 weeks, you'll be lathering up the sunscreen in Kamloops big time. We're 2 months till rookie camp.
Exactly.
So we figured all the more reason to relaunch, to start doing some more podcasts. We're going to aim to do this every week. Before we go on and talk about what we're going to do here on this episode, why don't you give our fans and listeners a bit of background on what you've been doing before moving to the left coast?
I think a good starting point would be to say that I'm a diehard fan of the CFL. Mm-hmm. So I follow the entire league. I have followed it for years. It goes back to being at Canada Inns with my dad, having season tickets there, and then obviously moving over to IG Field. But now my loyalty is now with the BC Lions. And so my schooling started in media and communications, and my initial plan was to kind of become a sports reporter. I kind of like the broadcasting world and all of that, and I actually did take the journalism path. And then along the way, I kind of realized that I was interested in the content side of things more, and obviously the digital content is obviously flourishing, that industry right now. So throughout my schooling, I did use a camera, so it wasn't like this was completely foreign to me. But really after school, which is kind of ironic, is when I really started to take this stuff seriously, and I started to get some freelance gigs. I worked for the Manitoba Bisons last year doing their sports games. I also did most of the CFL games at IG Field last year. So I've used all that experience to make this a full-time career and come out here.
So you're the good luck charm. You're going to turn around our fortunes at IG Field, right?
Well, you know what? So the thing about what I did last season...
Not a fun place to go into lately.
What I did last season for the CFL was I usually worked for the road team.
Right.
In most instances.
Including us.
Yeah. And that was not... if you followed games at IG Field last year, you know that the road teams did not have a lot of success. And by not have a lot of success, I mean that I think I recorded like 2 touchdowns throughout the entire... I saw Toronto... Hamilton got one on the very first drive of the year. And then I was like, oh, okay, here we go, we're set. And then that was it. Winnipeg shut down.
I remember, that was opening night, the Grey Cup rematch and everything. And we were in Regina because we were playing Saskatchewan the next night. And the wonderful COVID protocols was just holed up in my Regina hotel room watching that game. But that was progress because we knew the CFL was back. And we don't want to talk about this one too much, but we didn't have a good game there in October, I think it was.
Like I said, though, that was par for the course.
You're used to seeing that.
It's a dominant defense, and they use that to win a championship, right? So.
Yeah, and that's a good transition because you and I hung out a little bit at the Grey Cup in Hamilton. You were doing some work with our pal Darren Bombing, and formerly of TSN 1290 in Winnipeg, of course. But he, like a lot of others, has parlayed that success into his own career, and that was fun. Couple late nights there in the Football Reporters of Canada hotel suite up on Upper James Street there in Hamilton. It was convenient. It was right on my floor, and it was kind of a fun experience because you have the old guard of CFL reporters, the guys that are so loyal to this league, and some of us younger guys sort of enjoying that. That whole Grey Cup experience was a fun time.
It was a blast. It was, 4 days for us, or for me at least, and it felt like it was like 30 hours. Yeah. It flew by, but the whole experience was so many incredible things to really witness and even cover. Like Darren and I were lucky enough to actually get into the Bombers locker room after the game. So that was an experience in itself. And we got to talk to pretty much everybody, actually. We got Stanley Bryant getting emotional on camera. We got Drew Woltarski smoking cigars on camera. It was a really cool experience. And then also on top of that, like just meeting Farhan Lalji for the first time was really neat for me. Seeing Dave Naylor. I was sitting with Dave Naylor at a table for dinner one day.
I know it's disappointing when you meet those two in person, so it's all good.
No, that was honestly one of the highlights of the whole weekend for me, just being in the presence of so many legends in my mind of the Canadian media. It was a blast.
Yes, legends. Don't tell them that. Don't stroke their egos.
For someone like me, guys. They're legends. Yeah.
And what about our pal Reed Johnson with the Markcast down in Seattle? Him and his wife, who wanted to come experience a Grey Cup for the first time. And I know those listening to this podcast who have been to Grey Cups were preaching to the choir, but it truly is a special time. I mean, it was my first chance to be at a Grey Cup since 2014, which was here in Vancouver. And for me, it was only the second Grey Cup I've been outside of Vancouver. Was in Calgary in 2009 for the infamous Too Many Men on the field. Every Grey Cup I go to has a crazy ending. There's the Too Many Men. There's the called back return touchdown for the Ticats here in 14, and then the whole thing with taking a knee in the end zone there, and the Ticats coughing that one up.
Or the 90-yard drive where they needed like 94 to win the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
And they came up
that close to a touchdown. Yeah. And a cool thing for me is I had the media credential, but wasn't really working the game. Didn't really want to hang out in the press box. With all due respect to our great media colleagues, and the Moj Bob Marjanovic and I watched it in the club section, which is where all the Hall of Fame busts are. And I think this doesn't get much more cool than this. You're in essentially the Canadian Football Hall of Fame Museum watching the Grey Cup behind a window, so didn't have to deal with the wind and the cold. And there's the West Coast guy in me coming in. But you mentioned it, a bit of background on Nik Kowalski, and we're thrilled to be doing this, and we're going to aim to do this on a weekly basis. So we're going to talk to head coach Rick Campbell here in just a minute. We're going to have some fun with Rick. It's always football talk with him, which is fine, but we want to sort of branch out a bit and talk about some of his other interests. But kind of get your thoughts here on the work him and Neil McAvoy, Ryan Rigmaiden have done, adding some big pieces to this roster in free agency. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Well, this is something I want to ask Rick about, but if the average fan can look on the paper right now and see there's two position groups in my mind where there's like 8-9 starter caliber players, but only 4 or 5 spots for the starters, right? So those positions in my mind would be the defensive line and the secondary, where we saw Luches Purifoy and Delvin Burrow come here in the secondary in free agency, and then there was David Menard, Steven Richardson, Matthew Betts, Ivan McLennan. Probably forgetting somebody here, but the defensive line, like they brought in a ton of assets to this group.
Woody Barron's
the other one, yeah. So I'm interested to see like what's going to happen with those two positional groups, because if you really look at it, like I said, there's not as many starting spots as there are starter caliber players in my mind.
Yeah, and these are names that might not necessarily jump off a page right now, but you said it. Guys like Josh Banks, guys like Tim Bonner, guys who were pretty much penciled in as starters a few days into camp last year. They're going to be here, but there's going to be some good competition at some of those key spots, right? And that's what will make any coach or scout. We have some loyal fans who come to watch training camp and Kamloops every year. That's going to be fun to see, those battles.
Mm-hmm. Even in going back to the secondary, you got so many players who can play multiple positions. So it's not even a matter of who's going to be the starting, I guess, 6 if you want to count the Sam linebacker in that group. But where are those 6 players going to line up? Luches Purifoy is a guy who's been all over the secondary. He can really play any position. Marcus Sale's another guy. Jalen Edwards-Cooper was another one who I know was playing cornerback last year, played a bit of safety. So it's not even a matter who's going to start, but it's going to be where are these players going to start too.
Yeah. And like we said, 2 months from now, we'll be on the field for the rookies at least. And we'll for sure announce these specific dates and practice times in the very near future. Before we speak with head coach Rick Campbell, we encourage you to head to bclions.com. All your ticket package options for 2022. So many benefits to being a season ticket member. VIP pre-sale access to select concerts, events. Hey, we just announced The Weeknd, Motley Crue, BC Place. You get that. You get the option to purchase discounted parking, pre-sale access to Grey Cup tickets if you're a season ticket holder. We were just talking about how much fun we had in Hamilton in 2021. You get savings over single game pricing, first rights to reserve your seat for the playoffs, merchandise, 15% off. All those benefits go with being a BC Lions season ticket holder. And we have a new family zone if you're looking to get the kids involved, the youth. Very, very cheap and affordable family options. The Truly Den, you can read up about that. New sideline seating. You really want to get close. You want to go rub shoulders with Nik Kowalski while he's shooting the game. All these ticketing options available. bclions.com/2022 season. Rick Campbell coming right up. And we have the man, head coach, co-GM, more titles unnamed, Rick Campbell with us on First and Now, and Matt Baker alongside Nik Kowalski, or is it Adam Rita, Steve Barato? That's a great sweater you got there, by the way.
Facebook Marketplace never fails.
Oh, so the secret's out, huh?
Yeah.
For those watching, you can turn to the camera. There you go. We didn't get that out of the way in the first thing, but that is outstanding.
I'm happy with it.
We might have to start. Let's get Bob on the horn. Might have to start reissuing that vintage. Anyway, the coach is with us, and it's funny. Him and I were talking at the beginning as we record this. I think we're 2 months out until rookie camp in Kamloops. For you, it must start to feel real.
Yeah. First off, I appreciate your title, The Man. I like that.
The Man?
Yeah, you said I'm the man, so that's
okay.
That's one of my titles.
Well,
so I appreciate.
Someone else told me, so it must be true. So.
It's going to come quickly. It's you're right. We're about exactly 2 months from now. We'll be heading up the road to Kamloops, which is pretty exciting when you think about it. So this off season's definitely shorter than normal, which is a good thing for all of us, so we can get back to playing football.
Yeah, that really hits you lately that we didn't start until, July 10th a year ago, and for us still went to the end of November pretty much. But what is the process like now? I know the entire staff will be here later this month, but you're surely doing all kinds of virtual meetings and getting your playbooks and everything installed. What's that day-to-day like, Coach?
So the offense and defensive staffs meet on a regular basis on Zoom, as you said. So they've been doing that. We've also had a few CFL draft meetings. So the CFL draft is coming up quickly. So I head to Toronto. A few of us head to Toronto later this month. So we'll be doing that. It'll be good to be back at the CFL Combine. We haven't done that for 2 years. So to do that in person and see everyone again will make things seem somewhat normal again. So that's a big focus coming up is the draft, and we'll have several meetings on that. And then the draft is in, I believe it's on May 3rd. So lots of stuff coming up. And like you mentioned, the whole coaching staff will be in Vancouver here coming up in a couple weeks. And so, again, that's good to be all in person again and doing things and getting ready to go.
I was going to ask about the draft too. So with it being on May 3rd, I believe the NFL draft is about a week or two before.
April 28th, yeah.
Yeah, or not even a week or two, about 5 days before. So how does that, because obviously some Canadian players get selected to the NFL draft, so I'm assuming that's something you and your staff are monitoring in advance, right?
Yeah, that's why it's so, I would call it late for us, because we're going to be going to training camp literally 10 days later from when we draft. But that's so you can kind of see how the dust settles with all the Canadian guys, as you said, on whether they get drafted or they get a free agent deal. So at least you know where they stand when you draft them. So that's been typical of the last several years. Is the CFL draft is about a week after the NFL draft.
How much do you, I guess, value the the Canadians who are selected in the NFL draft? Do they kind of lose stock, or do you care about that? Or?
Depends on how long you want to wait for them. So in the big picture, when you're willing to draft some good players and wait on them, whether that's a year or two. A guy like, the latest example is the local guy, Chase Claypool. If you draft him, you're really rolling the dice. But you could draft him late in the draft and kind of take a flyer on him and see what happens. But guys like him is really that's likely not happening. But there's a lot of other guys that they get free agent deals or they're drafted late, and you never know how those guys are going to work out.
Yeah, it's funny. It just adds another element to the drafting process.
It is. It makes it more interesting. So and more Canadian guys are getting looked at, which is a good thing, by both the CFL and the NFL. So good on the Canadian guys.
Mm-hmm. I guess ultimately it comes down to who the best fits are for the organization. And
you got to take into factor the fit of the position. But I found over time, if you get the best players, that's what's going to serve you best in the long run. So the focus is finding the best players, but then as we start ranking them and stacking our board, so to speak, as you factor in, one would be the position as far as need, and then also the things like the NFL or the other wrinkle that gets thrown into it.
Hey, speaking of Canadian content, Nathan Rourke, Michael O'Connor, engaging in some regular sessions there in North Vancouver, and Nick was out doing some filming this week. His drone almost got damaged. That's another story for another day, but we won't say who the culprit was, but he played for Ohio University. And I believe Nathan's brother Curtis, the current starter at Ohio, part of the workouts this week as he was on spring break. But just your overall assessment of how Nathan has taken this all in, and we've had a passing of the torch with Michael O'Reilly retiring, and just your overall thoughts on that and Nathan's commitment to getting better in year 2 for him.
Yeah, the thing I like about him, which I always say, is it doesn't faze him that he's coming in here as the number one guy. His work ethic stays the same, which is that I think the ultimate compliment is he's shown up here from day one, just comes in to work hard and does his thing. And it's no different this year. He's the same guy, same attitude, all those things, and that's a good thing, and that he keeps on plugging along. So, I expect good things from him, and I was comfortable when he had to play last year, and I'll be the same this year.
Free agency overall, what excites you the most on what we were able to bring in?
Well, we got a number of guys. Number one is I liked the group of guys we had here last year, and I think we were a football team that needed to add some pieces to the puzzle, and I think we were able to do that. On the defensive side of the ball, I think we were able to add some pieces. On the defense last year, I thought we did some good things, but I don't think we were consistent enough. We created a lot of turnovers, we made some big plays, played well in spurts, but we weren't consistent enough over time as the weeks went by, and so I think we added some pieces of the puzzle that I think are going to help solidify that part. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the field goal kicker. I think adding Sean White was a big thing that doesn't always get talked about, but number one, he's very consistent. Also, him being Canadian helps the cause too, just with our other parts of our roster, and So I think a lot of good things happen in free agency, and guys that will come in and will line up and help us immediately.
Yeah, Sean White, we have to get him on soon. He's spent a little time with him. He's
down the road in White Rock, so get him to drive on up King Edward.
Yeah, seen him posting photos of his little man cave there.
Or King George, I should say.
King George,
King
yes.
George.
Yes,
Yeah.
we knew what you meant, yes. Yeah, he's all, and funny story about him, so free agency right after 9 o'clock, and he came in to talk and signed the contract, and he's wearing some team-issued gear, some old gear. He's like, oh, these is the first sweatpants and Lions hat Cato gave me back in 2007. Yeah. So he's sentimental and proud of his roots. That's pretty cool, too.
It is good. Yeah, we don't... the guys being local is not the number one criteria for being a part of the team, being a good player is. But I think it's really great that our quarterbacks, Sean White, there's other guys like Bo Lacumbo, there's several guys that are around here, and guys that are in and around the lower mainland, which I think is a good thing for our team on and off the field.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the messages that I'm taking away from what you've been saying about the free agency acquisitions is consistency, or what you're looking for this year. So what? And then if you look at the positional group that we brought in the most players to, it would be the defensive line. So what does the Steven Richardsons, the Woody Barons, the Matthew Betts, what do they do consistently that's going to help this football team?
They are guys that can impact the game. They're we want to add to our pass rush. The thing about defense is when the defensive line is playing well, one, stopping the run, especially on first down and turning things into second and long. And then also where you can pass rush without having to scheme everything up or blitz all the time. That's also a really good thing makes us all look good, our whole football team look good. So we had some good pieces of the puzzle last year. Banks and Bonner and Guacham and those guys I thought were really good players, and they're going to continue to get better. So when we mix these guys in with those guys, I think it only is going to make our D-line stronger.
And I guess just looking at all the players that are on the defensive line now, I think the secondary you can say the same about is that there's 7 or 8 guys that you could easily say are starter caliber players on each positional group, right? So I'm guessing training camp is going to be quite a competitive battle in those positional groups.
Yeah. So one other good thing in training camp is if there's stiff competition and hard decisions have to be made at the end of training camp, that's a good thing for the BC Lions. If it's all easy and you know everything, that means there's not enough good football players around. And I think we're going to be in the mode where we have a lot of answers, but there are going to be some tough decisions that need to be made at the end of camp, and that's a good thing for us.
Mm-hmm. Had a few friends, loyal fans, ask me, Matt, what about the O-line? What about the O-line? The bottom line is, you can correct us if we're wrong, there wasn't really many of those in free agency to target, right? People talk about some of the Americans that are coming in. We have a couple returning Canadians, guys like Sook and Peter who are in here working hard every day. What can you tell our fans about the O-line and that process starting in camp?
Yeah, that's always sure has been a hot topic of discussion around here for several years, even before I got here. Yeah. So I like our O-line. We've created, one is you're right about these guys downstairs working out. There's several of them, Neville and Fig, and the guys you mentioned, like there's several pieces of our O-line that are working hard, which is really good to see. We've created, just with the way our roster is going to shake out, is I think we're going to have the ability to play 3 Americans on the offensive line if we want to. We'll see how that all works out, but it's good to have options. And so we'll see how that all plays out. But it's good that we have that flexibility so that we can line up the best 5 guys, and away we go. And then football's a team game. Absolutely. And the better the running back plays, the better the offensive line's going to look. The better the quarterback plays, the better the offensive line's going to look, the better the receivers do. And that goes everybody. It's an interchangeable thing where we can all make each other look good by the other position groups playing well. So I'm excited about our offensive line. I'm excited about the ratio flexibility of having some options there to create competition in camp, and then we'll go from there.
And it makes the head coach look even better too. The players
We all,
before. Yes,
we all
makes everyone. We're all one. A few more minutes with Rick Campbell, and we want to have a bit of fun here too. It's been, over 2 years since you were first hired, right? December 2019,
Yeah.
and your first season on the sidelines here was delayed, and you're and that's one thing we say to people is you're all in. You're living here full time, year round, near BC Place. What have you loved most about living in Vancouver?
I'm liking the winters better. I've lived in my time. I've lived in Calgary and Edmonton and Winnipeg, so you can figure out what January's like in those cities. So I'm not.
You don't have to tell Nick about the Winnipeg winters.
I'm not missing my ice scraper or my snow shovel or things like that. So obviously it's a beautiful place to live. For me, it's pretty neat because I'm originally from the state of Washington, so I'm a kind of a West Coast guy. So to be back in this neck of the woods, so to speak, again, is pretty cool for me personally. And obviously it's a beautiful city, and I think I can see how people could take it for granted here.
Right.
If you've lived here for many years or grew up here like you did, is the mountains and the water and boats and all the things that are unique to Vancouver is pretty good. So it's all in all been great. I officially moved here full time about 2 weeks before the whole pandemic started. So
right.
I've literally, my time living here has been the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think it's been a pretty good city to live in as far as that goes, just with the weather and the options of doing things outside and all those things.
And I've told both of you this. I did live in Winnipeg for a year as a kid. Teemu Selanne's rookie year with the Jets, by the way.
Oh, that's when he scored like 70 goals.
So that was a good time to be living there. And I say to people, the people are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean that. The people are fantastic. The people who grew up there, live there, they swear by it, right? But you're right. It was an adjustment. Like, no mountains? What's going on here? But yeah, so I know you've, Nick, since you moved here, have been enjoying some outdoor spots. Any outdoor spots you want to recommend to Coach Rick? I know he's checked out a few of them, but
I haven't drifted too far away from Vancouver area, but I'd say I liked Lynn Canyon Park. I don't know if it's in North Vancouver.
Yeah, been there.
I liked there. I went to Golden Ears last weekend too for the first time, so that's like a close waterfall.
Yeah. I think what people wouldn't understand, because I didn't. I visited Vancouver several times and spent time here, but that within 30 to 45 minutes, just say you're downtown Vancouver, that if you drive within 45 minutes of downtown Vancouver, the stuff you'll see is you won't see that in any other city.
You can feel
I don't know any city on earth. I mean, I know a lot about Seattle and stuff, and Seattle's a beautiful city, but you can't even do that in Seattle where you're driving to Lynn Canyon or wherever. I mean, multiple spots you can see on the ocean, or you're seeing waterfalls or mountains. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. And I did the grouse grind several times, and just to be able to do that I can drive to that 20 minutes from my house. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? That's pretty good stuff.
That's what you got to do, Nick. The grouse.
I've heard of that one. Yeah, it's
be a test
high elevation.
About halfway up or 3/4 of the way up, you won't think it's that great.
It's a nice leisurely walk.
You'll be wondering why you did it.
About the weather, though, it's the one thing I've been telling people here, like how lucky, like people that are from here, like not even lucky, but like how you should be like grateful for. There's no snow. It's above zero on.
There were some flurries this morning. Didn't you see it?
Yeah, that's gone in 12 hours though.
It's raining now.
Winnipeg, I know, like my parents' house back home, a lot of my friends, like their yards are, like their fences are up to the top in snow. Right now still, so it's crazy there. They've
all those are great cities, and I loved living there, and the people, like you said, are great there. But
agreed.
I always remember March and thinking, March, you're ready for spring to roll around. And I know in places like Winnipeg, today I think it's like -21, and you know what I mean. It's so anyway.
Having to bundle, that was one thing my parents said, yeah, having to like bundle up just to go to the end of the driveway to get the newspaper in the morning. That's just something you never have to think about doing.
Starting your car every day to heat it up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Plug the car in at night, yes. You're a music guy. Hear the Tom Petty blaring from The Office sometimes. What is your all-time favorite artist? Is he up there?
He would be. I'm a product. You could figure out my age by knowing that I'm a product of like the late '80s and then definitely the '90s grunge and all that stuff. So that's kind of my wheelhouse of my high school and college years. So, but you're right. I'm a music fan. I would sit in my office and I would prefer to listen to music in the background as much as I can. So I'm definitely a streaming music fan. So that would be the best $10 I spend is having access to all the music I want. So definitely into that.
Lithium on Sirius XM Channel 34. I think that's
a good one. Lithium's solid. Good. Yeah.
First concert.
I think it was In Excess, which is a pretty good one. So anybody who's older than 35 or 40, do you know who In Excess is?
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
I know you're only 22 years old or whatever.
Anybody who's 40 or older right now should know who NXS is. So big 80s and 90s band and a little bit ahead of their time.
Well, I'm not quite 40, but I do know In Excess. I actually saw them. I think it was Vancouver 2010 Olympics. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, got tickets to a medal ceremony, and they were performing. So that was kind of cool. I don't know.
Their lead singer passed away.
Well, no, it's
the other guy.
Yeah, it's not with...
He was a Canadian guy.
Yeah, with the current singer. I can't think of who it was.
I can't say his name either, but he's actually a Canadian guy.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So I remember, some of the memories of those Olympics are a little... but I'm pretty sure we saw In Excess.
Well, you go back to your Sirius XM and listen to 80s on 8 or something like that, and you guys should educate yourselves on good music.
There you go.
I'll check it out.
What was your first concert?
3 Days Grace.
Oh.
At the MTS Center in Winnipeg.
Or whatever it's called now, yeah.
Canada Life Place or something. Yeah, they keep changing it, yeah.
3 Days Grace. Not bad. Not bad. I was Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, okay.
1997 at what was then known as General Motors Place.
That's pretty good. That's a good one for your first concert.
Yeah, they would have been touring after Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, the famous double disc there. So that was fun. Certainly miss going to concerts the last couple of years.
No kidding. That's going to be good to have that back going.
Yeah, Nickelback on Canada Day. That might be fun.
Well, who's coming to BC Place? Is it
Def Leppard and Motley Crue?
Who isn't coming to BC Place? Yeah, Motley. That one act is Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Joan Jett, and I'm missing someone in there. And then The Weeknd is also coming. Hey, if you're a Lions season ticket holder, you do have the pre-sale access to all those. So.
I think even like a Billie Eilish is coming soon, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, so a lot of big names.
And like I said, Nickelback on Canada Day, they're playing that.
I didn't even know that. That sounds cool, yeah.
You want to go? My wife won't go with me. No.
I like Nickelback. I have no shame in that.
Yeah. You like Nickelback? Don't be afraid to admit it if you do. That's okay. I know it.
I know it's a stigma, yeah, but I like them.
They actually, joking aside, they do put on a good show. I saw them in Las Vegas, took my dad for his 60th birthday a few years ago. We saw the Canucks and Golden Knights, and then Nickelback happened to be doing a residency at the Hard Rock, and it was a cool show. It was.
They're Alberta guys.
Yeah, Hannah, Alberta, I believe.
Is it Hannah? All right. Look at you. You got your music. We might have to have a music trivia thing going here.
Yeah, let's forget football for now.
Why are we talking football?
Yeah, why are we talking about the offensive line and the X's and O's? And hey, while we got you here, just for a couple more minutes, this is fun. We talked about the preparation, and other than the draft prep and camp, is that pretty much it? What else? What other areas do you have to focus on before we head to Kamloops?
Well, the playbook stuff's big, so you want to. We do a bunch of self-scouting. One thing that companies and businesses are always interested in sports, and especially football, is that we're kind of ahead of our time of self-evaluation. So we do a whole bunch of that stuff. We call it self-scouting, but it's basically looking at everything you do and seeing the good things you do and building on them and correcting the things you don't do. So that's always been a part of football for a long time. So that's a huge part of how we self-evaluate ourselves, and because you got to be always evolving with the game. So that's a big focus, like I said. And then the draft's big. And then I've been working with our football ops people on planning training camp. So just making sure we got all our ducks in a row as far as practice times and meeting rooms and all that stuff. And so a lot goes into it. And if we do it right and we're prepared well, then the training camp's a fun thing. It's you get to focus on getting ready for the season. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, I know we've told Nick about how awesome Kamloops is. I think you drove through there on your way here. Did
No,
you
I
not?
came. I came underneath.
Okay. Well,
I think a big part of our preparation for training camp should be, if we play music during warm-ups, as our players are stretching and stuff, that we probably should organize a good playlist.
Yes.
So that we're not screwed up on that front.
Last year, kind of flying by the seat of our. We found a couple good ones.
But maybe we can have a meeting about that, of putting a playlist together for training camp, so that we're hitting on all the good bands.
I like it.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Nickelback. All right, let's go.
That's my request. Yeah.
Day one, all Nickelback.
Yes. Well, we'll do day one. We'll do anthem rock. Day two, we can do the R&B hip hop, and then we can go a Tom Petty era. Day three.
80s on 8.
We got like 19 days up there, so yeah, we can really diversify.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you
Okay,
go.
let's get on that. Thanks for this, Coach.
You betcha.
All right, Rick Campbell on First and Now. We'll wrap things up momentarily. All right, wrapping things up on the first episode of the new season of First and Now. Matt Baker and Nik Kowalski. Very fun stuff with Coach Rick. Very interesting fellow. Trust me, when football's on, he's football. He's intense, all that in a good way, but kind of cool to talk about music and other things with him. And you had to look up In Excess after we spoke with him.
Yeah, I got a little bit of homework for my music listening.
I am intrigued and excited to come up with a playlist for training camp. That was fun. That was fun talk. So
I'll come up with the newer stuff. I can handle that.
yes, and I was impressed by what he said. The reaction to the offensive line. He kind of had some fun with it. He's kind of like, oh yeah, that's always been a talking point. Yeah, and he's right. The bottom line, this team upgraded at a couple of positions that it needed to upgrade, and contrary to what the average fan watching the game, and we're those guys too, if a play breaks down, it's not always the fault of the offensive line. I think that's something people tend to forget.
Yeah, I mean, if, say, there's the quarterback's in the pocket for 6 seconds and he gets sacked, like, oftentimes we don't exactly know what's happening or why that's happening, and the average fan will be like, oh, the offensive line, they didn't do their job, when in reality, there's so many other factors that come into play, right? So
there's coverage, sacks, there's all kinds of things that go into it.
Yeah.
So very fun, and we're very much looking forward to doing more of these, and it's going to be, as we build up, get to within a couple of months of training camp, this will really heat up. I like this studio setup, by the way. Those watching can see it, but we'll have to start thinking of areas in Kamloops we'll go record. So I'm at Bakes Takes 84 on Twitter. At First and Now, you can find the podcast, whatever platform you're listening on. Give us a follow, subscribe, leave us a review. Nick, your Twitter handle?
it's Nick_Kowalski, and the Nick is Nik. So just like Nick Lewis. That's what I tell people.
Aha, there you go. Had Nick here as a running back coach in 2019. Very interesting guy. Loved talking football with Nick. One of the all-time great players in this league, of course. So there you go. That's a good That's a good reference point. We thank you, the listeners. As always, thanks to head coach Rick Campbell. And Nick, you did good. I think you're going to get on full-time as a co-host here. That's good.
Sounds like a plan to me. I'm enjoying it.
And believe you me, we have some exciting video content projects on the go here in 2022. You're going to want to stick around for that. We can't say anything really more at the moment, but you are going to be very, very impressed. Matt Baker, Nik Kowalski, first and now. Thanks to our title sponsor, IA Financial. And we will talk to you real soon, folks.